The prince who was promised, Azor Ahai. According to prophecy, our champion will be reborn to wake dragons from stone and reforge the great sword Lightbringer that defeated the darkness those thousands of years ago. If the old tales are true, a terrible weapon forged with a loving wife's heart, part of me thinks man was well rid of it, but great power requires great sacrifice. That much at least, the Lord of Light is clear on. It should be noted, this is but a legend, recorded by many religious fanatic scholars derived from an ancient land of death and decay. So join me as I tell the true tale of Azor Ahai. The first part of the prophecy got it right mostly. MSO-VA1B, our champion, was reborn, but into a world already filled with drakes, wyverns, and a fierce dragon, armed with a club, not a sword most notably. The first challenge he would come across would be a small brute wyvern covered in twinkling rocks. The champion would, of course, vanquish this wyvern. However, you must remember, they had but a club, so such a feat didn't come without its ramifications. Our champion would encounter his first test of skill through a dance of halbardo and club. Out of practice, the champion was taking a hit too many, but alas, he was the better of the two at weapon play. The foe, however, was corrupted by some unknown entity, and tried to use it to get the better of this foreign caveman. Alas, the champion won, of course, and now he could truly begin to weave his tale. Talking with a fair maiden to level his stats, other than vigor, because, you know, it's for cravens, obviously. And then begins the search of a greatsword. This sword would be found guarded by an already dead wyvern. Grabbing the sword, the prince tried to escape to only die a truest death by wyvern fire. The claymore, simple yet splendid sword, would serve the champion well through his journey. The first to taste his steel would be a chest pretender, followed by the swing of our glorious champion's claymore. The prince would find a most helpful item, an upgrade for his flask, and continue forth and do battle with an invader of frosty and dogged entrance. Massive the foe Vort may be, this worked against him, making him clunky and slow, easy to dodge and avoid, and punish. Even near death, when he tried to use his body to the utmost, it was for naught. As Azor Ahai, the promised prince, is once again victorious. Afterwards, the champion made his way to the Blue Church, the same church many scholars would write deeds on his journey. The Sept gave a banner to be flown outside, signaling to winged hollows, "'Tis time." Giving his sword a fire infusion, so begins the tale of Lightbringer. Not quite like in the legend, the vocal part would be from a different sword. Upon first glance at the settlement, the champion decided that he must cleanse all the souls in sword fire. So he did. Many died along his path, mad farmers, a holy knight who lost his way, and the biggest of them being a monster of a tree hidden away from the world. Imposing is the only word that describes this tree correctly, as big it may be. Hitting the pus is a simple job and easy besides. Timber, the rod of great wood, did in the end, leaving behind a bonfire yet kindled. Good-humored knight, the prince with no crown, next came upon. Looking upon a demon, the prince mindlessly fell upon the demon to only be smashed and broken. Learn from this the prince did, as next time he and the knight would rotate attacks against the demons, sending it back to the fiery plains or wherever it came from. Finding an odd-placed ring atop a building, making the swing harder when lighter, and a ring that regains breath quicker. Should also be noted that the prince befriended a giant during this. Another ring was found, one that made his flames burn hotter. The prince used this without question. The next part of our tale is a bit iffy. Some scholars think he went into the sewers, while others think he went to the road of sacrifices. The latter is of the truth. In this odd place, our champion saw many twisted undead heathens, so they all must be put to the sword. Beside the bonfire were two travelers, one a huge man clad in black iron and a woman in knight's armor. Off to the cathedral, she said. Our champion would go before her, clearing the path. First, however, the swamp was filled with creatures that needed cleansing. First to taste the blade was a savage pit bull. Next, bluish, waist-high creatures and an ogre. A true challenge was up next. Mighty crabs. Both crabs fell, and the prince found a pyrotome. Quite useful. Next, they found a random shard for their flask just laying about and made their way through a ruined fort, at the end encountering who practiced the arts of crystal magic. The save caught the prince off guard once, however. It was a one-time thing, and the prince put down the sage after. Our glorious champion would come across and slay two crystal lizards, put heathens to rest, and find some foreign invaders. Both would taste Lightbringer's steel in the end. So continue forth, our champion did, into the cathedral with a well-placed bonfire to be kindled. Beside it is another undead. Who could this possibly be, he wondered. Back at Firelink Shrine, our glorious champion upgraded his stats. What a prince, what a champion. This, dear viewer, is where I have some bad news. As you see, the next recording part was really bad. I can only see a fourth of the screen. Not to worry though, this was only for like 15 minutes. I literally just killed a giant in the cathedral and got the shortcuts. That's it. So, yeah. Free from the ridiculous screen. We killed the stupid brute crystal wyvern, and then the twinkling titanite lizards that were behind. We then slay a giant and collect our drip. Yes, this is the true drip of Azor Ahai. Then we free a pyromancer for later use. Then we would do battle with the religious fanatics, deacons of the deep. These religious fanatics are as good at fighting as they are praying. They were a paper towel, they'd be wet and torn apart easily. For they are inferior to normal paper towels. Since a regular paper towel can at least wipe stuff up, they would just fall apart. Indeed, they did fall apart quite easily when my sword Lightbringer slashed them to pieces. And our glorious champion was once again victorious. Back at the Farron Keep, the prince encountered two brigand knights. Be assured, they fell, and they fell hard. Swamps. Why is it always swamps? No matter, the prince found another shard just laying around, then many weapon upgrades. This place was filled with it. A dark wraith, hungry for glory, was then defeated by our glorious champion. He lit the beacons, then began battle with the rocky demon. This rocky demon proved a worthy foe, felling our champion many times. But in the end, our champion, the promised prince, Azor Ahai, proved victorious, as he put it to the sword. After such a fateful battle, the prince came across another crystal wyvern. This one fell just like all the others prior, and so did a black knight behind it. May he die in agony. With the heathens put to the sword, it was time for the true test of this land. For any normal undead, this might have been a challenge, but this was the promised prince, our glorious champion, Azor Ahai. Our champion was grasping true fabled power of Azor Ahai, and swung with shattering force. Not one to give up easily though, the abyssal warrior tried to imbue itself with flame, but Azor Ahai was a champion of flame, and showed its greater prowess over the now dead warrior. He fought well, but not hard enough. Opening the tomb, our champion went and grabbed the pyromancy tome to learn how to imbue his sword, but he could not use it yet, for that required sacrifice. Slaying a wizard's skeleton, slicing and dicing a crystal lizard. Our gracious prince pattered on a bridge, then touched a skelly cup. This giant skeleton may be high, for he is no lord. For what lord can fall so easily? Rings of bright gold, they were easy to destroy. Very weak, and a poor choice for his gimmick. Destroying his final ring, we put the stupid Wolnir to rest and like he falls to his doom. Upgrading his stats, the prince fell a bridge, finding a mimic and a demon at the bottom. Both lost to our glorious champion, of course, and down the stairs was a ring that made the prince's flame grow even hotter. In this smoldering lake, the prince picked up many upgrade materials for his legendary Lightbringer sword. The next major foe that our prince would face would be a giant worm. But, you see, for our champion is cunning as he is prowess in combat, he would sit back and toast and let the giant catapult do all the work because he is a smart one indeed. Worm slayed, Azor Ahai awoke a sleeping demon and began battle. The Demon King was a fearsome foe as they come and resisted the prince's flame. He had befelled our prince a number of times. However, ever the clever one, our champion switched blades to the full steel and once again did battle with the old Demonic King. The Demonic King put up a good fight, trying to delay his death, but it was a long, hard-fought battle in the end, and many close calls, but our champion prevailed, and in the end, put the old Demon King to the sword. Using the old Demon King's soul, our champion bought the Chaos Bed Vestige, as it is a most powerful pyromancy, and our champion will make most use of it. Now, 'tis was time to make a flaming sword. Now, legend says that he plunged a blade into his wife, but really it's just any maiden. Thus, the prince plunged his sword into a warrior maiden, creating not Lightbringer, but Flame Lurker, a great sword licked with fire. That's it. I'm breaking character. I hate these rats. This rat can die. I don't like this rat. This rat sucks. It's dying. It's dying. Dead rat. Yep, die rat. Stupid rat. In the Ethereal Valley, Azor Ahai, you see, went out to find a new flaming weapon, for he is a master of all the arms, including halbardos, and so began the farming for the Immolation Tender, as it is a solid weapon, able to cast spells, which we will not use, obviously. It is upgraded with Twinkling Titanite, making it perfect, because we can already get a +3, and we can get it to +5 after a certain boss. Yes, indeed. We are going to be fighting Freed, and the reason for this being is past her are many Twinkling Titanites that would max out our weapon. And we have a +7 Fire Claymore, which just does plenty of damage. It really doesn't matter with the, when you have fire-infused weapons in general, you do a lot of damage, so most things in the game don't resist it, so you're pretty good to go. The hardest part about Freed at such a low level, I guess, is depending on your endurance. If you don't have high endurance, you can't really dodge as fluidly as you would like to, so you have to dodge backwards and strafe to get optimal punishes in. At least that's what I do. It's really easy to do, and it helps with the battle a lot. Still though, it requires well-timed dodges, and of course you have to play well. But eventually you will get the win. Another gracious thing that our champion decided to choose was use the shield ring. It helped him survive a hit, so he just didn't get one shot and was able to make more mistakes by that one more mistake. Additionally, Azor Ahai is a champion of the people. He would not slay a sept just to make it easier for him to upgrade his weapon more. No, he would endure the trials before him. And after what felt like a 24th of a day, our champion, the promised prince, defeated Freed. What a man. Level 50 now, our champion sets off for the first part of the Ring City, the Drag Heap. The undead, ever a hardy companion, guides us through this place. We then kill the angel for 2 Twinkling Titanite, very important here. Die to this annoying angel more times than I'd like to admit, but Azor Ahai keeps coming back, so it matters not. We then bring our steel against the other 2 angels for 4 more Twinkling Titanite, Grab the Herald Greysword. This will aid our prince against the demon princes. For the final item here, we collect a Titanite slab, and yeah, that's the Drag Heap. A lot of useful stuff here. Really good here to go early. Missing one Twinkling Titanite, we head to the catacombs to get it from the lizard here. Then head back and max out our Immolation Tinder. As to where he would go next, many scholars would also ask the same question. Would he go to Anor Londo first, or would he go to the profaned capital? Well, dear viewer, why don't you guess too? In the dungeon of Ithro, we kill the Mimic. I said kill the Mimic. Unlock the shortcut because it's smart and do battle with these rats. The rats won, by the way. Our glorious champion in his wisdom gets the elevator before the jailers and walks the path to the profaned capital. In this, well, capital, Prince frees 2 crystal lizards from their lazy life, slices water spiders, pisses off hippo hands that probably want to squeeze me super hard, and throws chaos vestiges at a mimic. Outstanding skill by our promised prince, Azor Ahai. Now then, it is time for a champion themselves to be slain. Azor Ahai is a champion. The promised prince is a master at arms, so he has no need of the Storm Ruler sword. With the halbardo, we can smack the head easily and hit the arms, getting easy staggers, never missing an attack too because of the excellent reach. For 6 minutes of hard-fought battle, Azor Ahai puts the nicest giant Yorm to rest. Rest easy, fellow champion. You might be Azor Ahai in another timeline. Yorm put to the torch. Azor Ahai converses with the Firekeeper, ever amping his stats, and continues to the self-proclaimed Pontiff. Our glorious champion in his wisdom realized that it is not the best idea to fight 7 savage pitbulls at once. Everyone's past them. Need a cheeky shortcut. What a man. Dodging a scythe sweep, ooh, then enters the room of Pontiff Sullivan. This Pontiff is many things. Our champion finds a worthy foe in him. As a dual wielder, he can catch us off guard at times, even if his clone 2v1 is cringe. It's still a welcome challenge for the prince. Opening with a parry, the prince does massive damage, and follows up with a slash of his halbardo, and chunks chaos vestiges at the Pontiff. Even with the clone active, chaos vestige does massive damage at range, completely countering it. Azor Ahai, the promised prince, our champion, ends the Pontiff with 2 chaos vestiges forever, collapsing his tyranny. Afterwards, our glorious champion heads back into the dungeons, collecting a key and freeing an imprisoned maiden. Not to use, mind you, but to set free, for Azor Ahai is anything if not merciful. Back to Anor Londo, the prince collects 2 more crystals lizards, dies underfoot a giant, stumbles across eastern ashes that he will probably use later, and kindles a bonfire before huge golden gates. Inside those golden gates, our champion opens a chest containing a flask upgrade, opens the gates but gets stomped by a giant death spider. How vulgar. Halbardo in hand, the prince makes his way to the boss and finds what can best be described as this monster catches our unexpected champion off guard. Only once though. Switching to the claymore for charge attacks, Azor Ahai puts the monster to the sword. Well-timed dodges and strafes puts him under the beast, following with charge attacks and slashing the beast. Tries to run, but to no avail. The prince chases it down and hacks it down till nothing remains but for an array of dust and embers from the fallen foe. After the battle, he's suddenly teleported back to the Sept of the Church to do battle with another invader. Before that, souls must be spent. The prince heading back to do battle with this invader, who happens to be a monster instancer. They move swiftly, however. Our champion hits hard, each attack shattering his foe. The dancer doesn't give up easily and tries to catch our prince off guard with Dance Dance combo. But to no avail, the prince dodges it easily, countering every attack, be it stab, slash, or slam. It made no difference, for each response was a curt slash, simple stab, or swift evasion. In the end, the dancer felt like everything else, failing in her duty of preventing fellows like us from entering the castle. Up the ladder, we kindle the bonfires, dodge wyvern fire, outskill undead who wish us harm and kill what's left of the wyvern. Bursting forth from a wound comes another entity similar to the one we saw at the start, yet it falls easily to the prince's flame all the same. Its death drops 2 chunks and clears the pathway for the rest of the loot. Further in, we slay Mimic, which tried to slurp the prince, but it died as it lived, dumb and alone. Even further in the castle lies another wyvern that, well, you already know our champion dispatches this threat with his flame. Now for the real deal, an armored warrior controlled by odd entities in the sky. This piece of armor is quite the warrior. They have a good rhythm to their attacks, and our champion enjoys his dance of axe and blade with his foe. Yet this too was to be disrupted. Halfway through his dance, the entity started shooting blasts and lasers, ruining his experience, and forcing the prince to finish the fight and ruining his fun. Dodging swiftly of the armor's rush, the prince bursts open and hit this suit of armor with his flame, ending the duel. Level 62 now, the prince kindles yet another bonfire. For some odd reason, the prince finds the keys to the gates right outside. Nonetheless, we open the door. Beyond the door is filled with heathens that must be put to the sword, which we do. We put them all to the sword. The hard one was another sage, who got the better a few times of our glorious champion, but it fell all the same. Beyond the sage were some savage undead who thought to resist Azor Ahai. They were put to the sword and flame like everything else. They barely put up a fight. The prince finds another cheeky shortcut to Estus Shard, then grabs another Titanite slab at the bottom of the elevator before the twin princes. As for the twin princes, let them rest for now, upgrading Flamewalker to the max, and then leveling up to prepare for the next duel. With Flamewalker in hand, so begins the battle with the demon princes. They are fearsome beasts worthy of mortal combat, and prove so. Many times did they kill our champion, be it from swipe, breath, or fire itself. Yet their death, like many others, is inevitable. Flamewalker hits these beasts hard, and rushing down the dark red one brings great success. The other follows quickly. They are not done, however. They combine their power into their true form and become the Apex Demon. This Apex Demon is strong, but Azor Ahai is stronger. Many well-placed dodge and attacks give the prince an edge for their ultimate laser beam attack. Well, it's easy to walk around. Like everything else, they fall as well. With the demon prince's boss soul, we can get their weapon. It can serve as a catalyst and also as an offhand weapon. Of course, the drip too is unmatched. Many studious scholars would think on where Azor Ahai went next. Would he go to the Ring City? Or would he go to the Archdragon Peaks and fight Gwyn's son? Well, in the true telling here, we know where he went. The former. As beautiful as the Ring City is, the prince is here for the heathens, Crystal Lizard slain. The prince kindles a well-placed bonfire that converses with a female. She then asks us to slay a dragon. This is what Azor Ahai was made for. However, before the dragon, a suit of armor seeks to challenge us, Azor Ahai? Doesn't end well for the suit of armor. Putting on a shield that helps against the heat, our champion, the glorious savior, to slay the heathenous dragon, then guards against the dragon fire. The dragon fire is brutal, and in the end, crisps our prince. But this will not happen again, for when we return next, we will plunge our blade into the dragon's skull, sending him to the depths. And so we chase him. Dragon, 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 dragon. The dragon is intimidating, no doubt, but our glorious champion is Azor Ahai. He was born to slay beasts just like this. A lot of vigor the dragon may have. It does not change the outcome in the slightest, only delaying it. Each attack easy to dodge because of its massive size. Near its frantic end, the dragon tries to condense its power, but alas, this does not help either. It swipes and bites, as easy to avoid as ever. Our champion knocks to the ground, stabs the eye, and slays the dragon, culling it completely and ending its reign of fire and blood. Conversing with the Firekeeper for those delicious levels, our glorious champion collects the slab from the maiden, then enters the church to do battle with Half-Light. Now, Half-Light is half a fight, so he does not deserve a health prompt, or even what all the other bosses got, for he is a heathen, and the truest form of a heathen. He is cringe, he uses a katana, he dies with no light in sight, because our glorious champion, Azor Ahai, stole that from him. What? Still listening? In the ash, amongst the dead bodies, he finds another undead. With hindsight, we now know this to be Santa Claus, but he didn't know that then. All he knew is that this was a fellow undead he has already met prior, named Gale. And this guy, well, he was mad. This Gale was a heathen and must be put to the sword. However, that's easier said than done, for Santa Claus could take a beating and refuse to fall after many slashes and stabs. Even when he did fall to his knees, he only got stronger. For what felt like an evening, our champion battled Santa Claus, dying many times, and coming so very close, yet each time he was denied release. However, remember, this is Azor Ahai, the prince who was promised, so victory was certain. The only variable in front of that was when. That when was now. Azor Ahai, our glorious champion. With a final chaos vestige, our champion burned Santa Claus to ashes, acquiring his blood. Odd, he did encounter a young painter a while back who asked for blood. Maybe this was it. Azor Ahai gave the blood to the painter. Thus she named it Azor Ahai. Therefore, a glorious world will be born, whatever she drew. Our glorious champion also took care of a wolf and its kennel master, but they are akin to Dumb and Dumber and are unworthy of any more words wasted on them. Back at the beginning castle, our champion took an elevator down and found this wasn't actually a drake. An old king turned into a drake in his lust for power, who held a child in his arms and crushed it. This act of pure vile outraged Azor Ahai and beat down the drake monstrosity mercilessly. Broken, discarded, it fell forgotten. Beyond the drake monstrosity lay another drake monstrosity, who fell just like the prior. It seemed to be guarding a picture of an odd pose that was sitting down. Odd, the back wall looked to be crumbling, so the prince hit it and dropped down into where he began. This was a strange world indeed. In the dark place, he felt a pull to where he originally slayed the crystal wyvern. Yet he did not entertain that pull and instead continued to where he fought his first great foe in surprise. There he was in all his glory, the first great foe. This was indeed a great foe, for it pushed our champion to his limits, always barely getting by his attacks. It was a grueling battle, but eventually he did win. But it just didn't felt like it was a deserved victory for our glorious champion. For every attack, he fumbled around, but when he did win, it just didn't feel like it. Beyond the great foe lied the same Firelink shrine, yet different, the coil inside, and Firekeeper eyes. Our glorious champion amps his stats. The prince returned the eyes to his Firekeeper, deciding that this world's flame was not that of a good one, and best to be snuffed out. Now this is where scholars also didn't quite understand where he went next. Some presumed he went to Lothric Castle to finally finish the princes, while the others presumed he went to Archdragon Peaks. Well, you see, he actually went to the last one, Archdragon Peaks. Remembering that picture he picked up besides that drake monstrosity, he imitated it by a statue striking the same pose, and was magically teleported to a faraway land. This cloudy land was full of drake monstrosity, heathens all. Beyond even them lay a massive drake, Drake's dragon. Big as it was, a sword to the head was all it took to bring it down. Easy as Vort. Searching this odd place, our champion found another drake, which he oddly didn't fight but ran past. Odd indeed. Beyond it, however, he found ashes that would prove most valuable, and lever that rang a bell. This bell caused clouds to cover the place, so the prince put on flame liquor and braved the storm. The Storm King, a drake. This drake was old and fell easily. However, the rider was anything but easy, for he was a joke. Azor Ahai, our glorious champion, the promised prince, made a fool of this rider, smacking him to the ground and dancing around him. After having his fun, our champion, the glorious savior, put him to the sword, slaying the self-proclaimed king. Back to the skies with you. This fool was guarding a slab, a most useful item for a disgusting fiend. Back at the castle, the prince did battle with the bigger of the two was a warrior, courageous without question, but slow, easy to avoid and punish. His brother, however, used some type of magic thought to be blood magic later, revived the brother, and berated our champion with magic. It even caught the prince off guard. Once. Only once though, as Azor Ahai slayed the bigger brother, then the little brother, ending their princeship. Praise our glorious champion. Both princes put to the sword. Our champion went back to the Firelink Shrine and rested all the Lord Skulls on their respective chairs, then kneeled at the bonfire. This teleported him to the kiln where it all began, and sat a flaming entity, amalgamation of past lords who fancied themselves, well, lords. The beginning of the battle was even, the flame being able to change his weapon at ease, be it sword, staff, or spear. This, however, would not aid him, and he would fall to his knees eventually, like everything else. He was not done, however, standing back up with a giant flaming sword, an imposter. There was only one Azor Ahai, and that was our glorious champion. The promised prince showed his prowess in slash, stab, invested. The being tried to use lightning, but that proved folly as the prince staggered him during his cast. In one final attack, the being gave everything he had, but our champion, our champion, always clever, used a vestige and burned the being of cinders to ash. Many records like to think that he continued the cycle, but they all come to the same conclusion. As he approached the bonfire, he conversed with the firekeeper and followed through with the plan, snuffing out the flame from the land. Ironic, isn't it? Azor Ahai, the champion of fire, seek to extinguish it in the end? Perhaps he grew tired, or perhaps he saw what horror it inflicted. Alas, we will never know, and what will be recorded of him were religious scholars who found an enticing tale that would later be used as a prophecy. Though many accounts of this tale are inaccurate, one thing they all got correct was, he was indeed the promised prince, our glorious champion, Azor Ahai.